Let us start off with the usual prayer for teacher and student. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunuktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditam Astoma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May that one protect us both. May that one nourish us both. May we work together with great energy. May our study be illumined. May we not unnecessarily cavil with each other. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. The theme of this evening is I am the way. When we meditate, it is useful to take a small phrase that is meaningful to us, preferably scriptural based, or some inspirational statement, and reflecting on it over and over again by repeating the phrase until we truly understand the inner meaning. This may take a long time. And I am the way is part of a phrase used by Jesus. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the light. What did he mean by that? And when you say any statement, first of all, there has to be a context. But secondly, you can say it in many different ways. For example, you can say, I am the way, the only way. You can only come through me. That's one way. Or you can say, I'm the way, with the emphasis on way. In order to even be comfortable with meditation, there has to be a sense of practicing a presence in your working, waking life. In your normal business as you go about, from waking up, as soon as you wake up, putting yourself in the divine presence, that itself is a meditation. You're already meditating if you do that. And then when you sit down in a formal way, meditation will be easy and natural. So let us analyze the statement, I am the way. First of all, when some great incarnation tells us I am the way, we realize it's not original. We realize that Krishna also did it. We realize that Buddha taught a way divided into 8 steps, or 8 aspects, an eightfold path. So also, when we think of a way, we think of a spiritual path, some kind of journey. And all of us are journeying. And when somebody says, I am the way, it means I am the path, I am the avenue. But from what standpoint are they saying I? The whole universe is structured conveniently for us in a number of different categories. 24 categories are elucidated by the Sankhya's. We can add a few more. The point is like a ladder, or like a progress up a mountain. We know where the top is. We have some idea what is at the top, at least in principle. And we know we have to journey. In the beginning, the journey is arduous. This concept of a pilgrimage going through life is an echo of a real physical pilgrimage that has been done since time immemorial. And every great religion has it. The Muslims have an annual pilgrimage to Mecca. In fact, it's one of the great pillars of Islam, that this is a necessity. If you can afford it in your life, please go on this Hajj. What takes place? What takes place is a profound opportunity to put everything aside, to dress in the same way, to appear the same to everybody, to have an equal brotherhood, as it were. And then there's a set pattern. Visit this place, visit that place, ending in a perambulation of the Kaaba. And all done in such a way that there are no disturbances, everybody's flowing. There's a common understanding, there's a common feeling that we're all here for a central purpose. Now, in our normal working life, there are many purposes, some short term, some a little longer term. And generally, the reason why we're working is a longer term goal. We want this or we want that, and the minimal, we want to sustain our current existence. But during that period, we have to realize that life itself would have a goal much deeper than that, much more profound and much longer term. How to understand it, how to realize it, and then how to take a pilgrim journey. There is in Spain, of course, the very famous Camino. People from all over the world are prepared to go thousands of miles, or at least a few thousand miles, in some cases less. They're happy to put up with inconvenience. Some people get blisters on their feet if you make a pilgrimage to the source of the river Ganges. Some people go by bus in very rocky, mountainous terrain, but others spend 3 months going by foot. Swami Vivekananda traveled the length and breadth of the whole of India on foot, and this was a pilgrimage for him. Other people in modern society are happy to take a dog for a walk, or they're happy to do some jogging, something for their health. And what is the difference between this physical movement and the movement of a pilgrimage? In our own Nivedita house nearby is Ladies' Well, that used to be a great, great venue for pilgrimage. People from all over used to come there. Canterbury in England, a great, great pilgrimage site, a site where a martyr was there. Some people go there in order to get something, like people going today to Lourdes. Not exactly a pilgrimage, it's described as that, but behind it is some motive. But the real pilgrimage, the real sincere pilgrimage that leads us onwards in a beneficial way, will be one which has no private motive. It is simply walking one foot in front of the other and enjoying the divine presence as we go, knowing that there is a journey to take, happily taking it. What are the components of such a journey? We have to have dogged determination. It has to be enjoyable at some point, beyond the blisters. We have the opportunity of enjoying all the surroundings and registering it to a different authority or a different entity. In other words, taking it away from ourselves and putting it into a worship context, making all our activities transformed into adoration. So life's pilgrim journey is described in different ways. There is a famous book, The Pilgrim's Way, by a Russian pilgrim, exploring the question of practicing the presence. Practicing the presence is a necessary prerequisite in meditation, because meditation sets the ground for it, is this personal contact with the divine. It can be done in no other way. It's like saying, let us all just attend virtual programs. This has become a trend today. There's no need to go to the ashram. There's no need to go to a church, because we just tune in and we get the Vatican, or we get Belo Mat, or we get some other thing. But it's not the same. We have tended now to validate a virtual world and not understanding that personal contact, there's no substitute for it. So our pilgrimage journey leads us to a point of meditation. When Jesus says, I'm the way, I don't believe he's saying I'm the exclusive way. It is only through this vessel. He also said, I'm the truth, and he also said, I'm the life. But according to the prologue of St. John's Gospel, in which this statement is contained, in the beginning was the Word. Our philosophical language for it is cosmic mind. In the beginning was a cosmic mind that expressed itself as a word, as a primordial vibration that then combined and made combinations and permutations to create the subtle world and create the world that we're in now. And when we understand what is the spiritual journey, not just the spiritual process, but the actual journey. What's the difference between process and journey? Process is what to do, but the actual journey is actually doing it. And we can compare it to climbing a mountain. The yogis had a similar idea. Instead of saying, or using the analogy of mountain, they said, let there be something like a rod in you. And this rod we can call by a specific name. And when energy enters into it, it is entering into a world. It is opening up an area. It is opening up the superconscious mind. Superconsciousness is that subtle area where all our inspiration comes. And the more we advance in it, the more levels of consciousness that we climb and that we reveal, the closer we are to the truth, which we can now describe as the way, the truth, and the light. The way itself is the same entity. In the analysis of material life, in physics, energy is one. You cannot find where the border of one energy is and the next. You cannot find the border, according to the yogis, between the sun and yourself. These are simply different points of energy. There is a oneness everywhere. It is our propensity to make individuals and separateness that gives us the wrong idea. And then we defend our own little point, our own little space, not understanding that not only are we all connected, but there is a oneness, just like waves are connected because they are one with the ocean, and different waves will arise. How can we really get to understand that we are the ocean, not the wave? It is by constant practice. And practice means prayer. It means repetition, what we call japa, repetition of a protecting thought called mantra. It requires leading a moral good life. It requires practicing the presence of the truth. As a devotee, you can say, practicing the presence of God. Walking your journey with that entity. Compared, say, to walking on a pilgrimage or climbing a mountain. In yogic language, these various levels of consciousness are within you. And as your journey progresses, these levels of consciousness open up one by one, bit by bit, so that ultimately you climb, as it were, to the top where you realize, oh, actually, it's the same thing. Let us, for example, take the well-known story of the two birds which sit on a tree. From the Mundaka Upanishad tells us these two birds, acquaintances, they seem to be similar, but one sits on the tree and his demeanor is very different from the busy one that stands and walks about and meanders around, sometimes with purpose, sometimes aimlessly, on the lower branches of the tree. This experience in life, this journey in life, is exactly the same as us as pilgrims. And when we don't think of ourselves as pilgrims, then we are mere people who are walking, who are jogging, who are exercising, who are doing all activities with short-term purposes in mind, ignoring the long purpose aspect of this. There's nothing wrong, of course, with short-term goals and purposes, but as long as we bear in mind that the central reason why we are born and why we live, why we die, why we're born again, the central purpose of all of that is to realize our own central, infinite, invisible, inward self. What religion calls God. You can describe it in religious language as a vision of God. This has to be an endeavor with no holiday. It has to be a constant activity. In the beginning, it may be a struggle, but any journey is a struggle until we get used to it, until we get into our stride. I know somebody who went on the Camino after a few days, terrible, terrible blisters on their feet. And they had to hobble to a town where their feet were bandaged by a kind person, looked after, and then they had to change their shoes. They had made the mistake that I'll go on this journey and I just put one foot in front of the other. There's no big deal about it. They didn't realize the wear and tear on the feet. They didn't realize the training necessary to do such a thing. They didn't realize all the hardships that had to take place. They didn't realize that if you don't train, you'll soon be out of breath. And you can do that day after day for a month. You can do it. But by week 2, you've gotten used to it. By week 2, it's easier. And so it is only by practice that we are able to get into our stride. Not only that, but if we don't enjoy the journey, we can hardly call it a pilgrimage. If we think that we are only going to a destiny, let us take, for example, the great piece of literature, Pilgrim's Progress, or the old text that describes the journey to Canterbury, the Canterbury Tales by Chaucer. There he is keen to observe all kinds of different personalities. It's the same in so-called real life. We're all different personalities. We're all striving in our own way, but most of the pilgrims are characters that have no intention of practicing a divine presence with great appreciation for the journey itself, not just the end of it. The end of it is sublime, but the journey itself should be a great, great source of comfort, of peace, of inspiration, of joy, is the journey itself, because I am the way, not I am the goal. I am the way, the actual way. When we take visitors to Dungannon, which for ourselves is a pilgrimage place because it's the birthplace of Sister Vedanta, whose birthday is coming up on Thursday. We have a celebration in the evening. When we take people there in a car or a bus, after some time people start nodding off. They forgot that even the road is the Lord of the universe. Even the road is the divine. Even the road is your most intimate friend. That road is taking you in a smooth way to your destination. The constitution of the road itself is that divine entity, and all the environment around it, trees, grass. But very often people just get bored. I've seen that before. means they never observed it properly. When people are a little lazy to observe something correctly, there is no opportunity for them to appreciate it. And from appreciation comes thanks and adoration. Maintaining and sustaining this feeling of adoration is what we call practicing the presence. Practicing the presence on the journey, practicing the presence in every activity. I've often said there are two ways to make tea. You can throw a few tea bags in a pot, put some water in, and hastily drink it. That's one way. The Japanese do it very differently. For the Japanese, there's a whole ritual around it. For the Japanese, it's a sacred activity. For the Japanese, they do it with mindfulness. There's a certain way of stirring it. People take their time over it. And drinking it is done with great appreciation. Today, where food is readily available, not just food, but fast food is readily available. Fast and cheap food. Things which are combined quickly and consumed equally quickly. And then there's a modern tendency also for television dinners. So the whole family gathers around the central deity of the house called a television set. And there they happily, in the midst of all kinds of BBC news, murders, etc., they happily consume their food. All these activities not done mindfully or with the idea this is a pilgrim journey. At the end of this pilgrim journey, you will either arrive at your destination or you will be delayed. Every deviation is a delay. We have the capacity and the opportunity to get our freedom here and now. There are some people who are reluctant to say that. But the whole of the Vedanta philosophy, the whole of the Vedanta preaching, the whole of the Vedanta missionary endeavor is to tell you about your own divinity and the possibility of getting there. Simply because you have it already, this freedom you have already, this entity is already there, already perfect, full and free. It doesn't have to be attained. It doesn't have to be grasped or gotten from somewhere. It doesn't have to be imported. And it won't come necessarily, automatically, in a postmortem condition, because it's already with you. The realization that it's already with you is the very start of your pilgrim journey. The start of the pilgrim journey in yogic language, as I mentioned earlier, begins with an awakening within, not from outside, but from within, to an inner call also, a spontaneous reaction to an inner call. This is what happened in the example of the two birds on the tree. But the inner call is poked at us by the impingement of pain. Some painful event comes. It presses us, it pinches us, and we look for some inspiration. And in contrast to all the humdrum daily things with all their thorns and problems and so on, and tasting bitter and sweet fruits in an effort to sustain some pleasurable experience. And with a disappointment, with a kind of bereavement, with a grieving, spontaneously we have to look for inspiration. In the case of the story of the Mundaka Upanishad, we look to the ideal bird, the perfect shining one radiating at the top. And it is so attractive, and its condition of peace is so attractive, the spontaneous movement toward it. So we progress up and up. Now, if we use the analogy of a tree and replace it with the analogy of some kind of danda, some stick within us, some channel within us, where energy can be diverted, that it has an opening effect. This opening or this channel is called Sushumna, technically, by the yogis. And all these levels of consciousness are called chakras. And each one corresponds to a subtle element. And each one will have the capacity, when opened, to realize the various combinations and permutations of these elements that arrive at what we consider to be our reality, which in fact is only the crest of a crest of a crest of a wave. We're only seeing a tiny portion of our totality. And when we take all the energy normally diverted and scattered and embark on a process of ekagra, that is one-pointedness, we are rechanneling this energy and opening up one by one these levels of consciousness. They represent physical forces. They represent also divine graces. These divine graces are there to assist us. And when we start opening these up, we start a journey progressively, more and more of self-discovery. The spiritual, intensive spiritual, serious spiritual journey begins with what is termed as a heart chakra. The heart chakra, that is the beginning of a love of God or a more intensive search for truth. That intensifies. That becomes ultimately ecstatic love. It becomes prema. And ultimately it becomes a sense of nearness and a sense of unity. And the ultimate unity will tell us this one thing, that I am the way. I am the way, that journey. I'm also the purpose, and I'm also the end result. You know, Krishna tells us the story of going up a building. A person of realization, when at the top, will understand. The top, the roof, the stairs, the walls, everything is made from the same material. It is all the same universal consciousness with no separation anywhere. This realization comes. It doesn't stop there. Because from there's a spontaneous feeling to work for the welfare of all beings. This person of steady wisdom, Sthita Prajna, we are told in the Bhagavad Gita, works for the welfare of all beings. Doesn't just stand there. There are some who might just dissolve like the salt doll. But there are others who say, let me come back for others. Krishna tells that story of two people who come across a wall. And there's a great celebration and festival going on beyond it. And one person climbs a ladder and looks in. And he's so enamored with what is going on and all the joyous celebrations there, he becomes forgetful of everything else and climbs over. The second man goes up, sees the same thing. Instead of joining the party, he climbs down the ladder again and goes to others to tell them, hey, come on, come on, come on, look at this. So these two types are there. This journey this way, represented as a pilgrimage, not just as a pilgrimage that serves to purify the mind, serves to reorientate us, and also gives us the usefulness of a little struggle, a little hard work. There's nothing worthwhile in life if there's no struggle, or if there's no, if things are easy. If I discover God tomorrow, I'll give a military coup against him the following day. There is a reason why we have to struggle. But the main struggle comes from our denial of this unity, because wherever we look, we don't find this unity. And yet there's an urge within us for it. There's an urge within us to be united to other people. There's an urge in us to be united to peace. There's an urge in us to be harmonious, that is, internally united. There's an urge for us for a community of spirit. So the will to unite is within us. Then the will to move in different directions is within us. What a wonderful thing it is to take a pilgrimage with the right attitude. not only appreciating the journey itself, but also the sacredness of the end. Every religion has it. But of course, life itself echoes it also. Climbing the ladder. See, there's the phrase, climb the ladder of success. This is counterproductive in spiritual life. Because although we set the goal, we leave it there. And thereafter, we concentrate on the actual process. And the actual process engages feeling. It has to engage feeling, not the intellect. We can reason out the intellect to form a basis of operation. But thereafter, it is to get in touch with sensations, get in touch with feelings, and learn to express them. And so the highest feeling that we have is non-demanding love. On the basis that a unity of existence which already is there means anything I do to myself. Even when we engage in some social service or some compassionate act, it is really that we are doing it for ourselves. It is our privilege to do it. We are the beneficiary, nobody else. This unity of existence is such a beautiful thought, is such an overwhelming feeling, is to feel that you're part of some universal ocean present everywhere. And it's expressed in different ways at different times by different people. So, I am the way is not taken in an exclusivist way to say that it is only through this path or that path. I am the way. I means cosmic mind. I am the cosmic mind, says Jesus, says Krishna, says any of those who declare. Only through me, yes, only through the cosmic mind. I learned this very early on, by the way, because I was struggling with the statements that certain religions made. Only through us. It is only through, for example, some say only through Krishna, some people say only through Christ, some people say only through the Muslim way, or whatever it is. This exclusivity doesn't make any sense. And so we know by Ramakrishna, for example, by his personal experience, we know that all paths are true. So many faiths, so many paths. We can use a number of analogies. Climbing a mountain, or many rivers going to the same sea, same ocean, or many rays emanating from the sun. If we trace the rays, we go back to the sun, that unity of existence. It is only this unity of existence that will give us the satisfaction of our own fulfillment, but will also provide a sense of peace and understanding and compassion worldwide, everywhere. And so the idea of a unity of existence has to be there, and the way has to be different. Has to be different because we are constitutionally different. Not one person is the same. We all come from a different angle, a different approach. We'll take up a different methodology. Our tradition is different. Our culture is different. We should never try and make it the same. To fit everybody into the same clothing, the same cloth, is impossible. Knowing this constitutional difference, we can then have a great deal, not just of understanding, not just tolerance, but acceptance of every path. Understanding every path is true, every path is real. And the final conclusion, I am the way. There's no difference between the way, and there's no difference between the goal and the way. It is all one entity, one and the same. Even a glimmer of this reality will give us a tremendous, profound encouragement and profound insight. A great feeling when this oneness is there. When there's oneness, there's no fear, because there's no second to fear. Fear only comes when two or more entities are there. When there's only one entity, who will fear whom? The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad will declare a kind of story that the Lord of creatures looked around and found none other there. And so he, wanting company, declared, I am. See, this is why we also declare, I am so-and-so. We introduce ourselves to somebody and say, I am so-and-so. And then began multiplying, as it were. Of course, this is not meant to be taken absolutely literally, but the purport of this is there is only one entity that manifests itself in all these different names and forms. It's not that there's a creator and creation separate. And as long as we think that there is, then we will always be and feel separate. And then we may even come to a conclusion, what's the point? There doesn't seem to be any central purpose in life. So let us enjoy our pilgrimage, our pilgrim way, the pilgrimage that is commensurate with the statement, I am the way. Let's explore that a little bit further. I am the way. I am the truth. When you go on a way, it suggests some progression. If you go on a different path, you'll get lost. So naturally, if it is I am the way, I myself am the way, it is only I am the channel, I am the way, then I am also the truth. I'm the valid way. And I am the life, I am life, life itself. That is, I am that energy that is there within, behind, and expressing through all things. In yogic language for this we call prana. So this prana is everywhere. Swami Vivekananda is keen to point out one point of it is the sun, one point is the moon. These are just different points overall on a canvas that we call prana. So let us enjoy the way. I, of course, joke about the famous philosopher Nissan, and people scratch their heads and wonder what that means. What is this philosopher Nissan? Well, Nissan, to my mind, is a great philosopher because, of course, Nissan is a car manufacturer, but they have these huge billboards. Life is a journey. Enjoy the ride. I'm the way, the truth, and the life. Life itself is a journey. How true. So this is the life. We may as well enjoy the process also and see that it is God manifested, the divine manifest everywhere. Not just in a separate thing, separate entity. Not just some entity that is above the clouds. We begin religion by starting with I. This personal I is not the way, of course. And then we put a goal somewhere. And we leave that goal until it's convenient, until we're in trouble. Like the two birds on the tree. Getting into trouble. The lower bird getting into trouble, tasting the bitter and sweet fruits of life, and feeling the pain, which is nature's way of, hey, come on, look deeper, look higher, find something else. You won't find any satisfaction by this so-called normal habitual behavior. Take a different direction, shift your gear in a different way, get some inspiration, fill your mind with something inspiring. That's part of your pilgrim way. Because a pilgrimage is naturally by its own nature inspiring. And then looking up at the bird on the tree, moving naturally toward it, progressively until we reach the top. Yogic language that is using or channeling all our prana or energy, psychic prana that is unfolding all our levels of consciousness in the mind until we reach consciousness itself, where nearness becomes oneness in a glorious revelation. Don't think you can't do it now. You can do it now. But it requires effort, Tanjanya Yoga Sutras say that success is purely for the highly energetic. The more intensity you put in, the better. It's quality, not quantity. Don't worry how long you'll meditate. It could be 2 minutes, it could be 20 minutes, it could be 2 hours. It's the quality. Because when you arrive at that unity of existence, there's no time in it. So let us enjoy our pilgrim way. I'm going to finish early this evening. Let us enjoy our pilgrim way. Let us enjoy the process. And let us make our pilgrimage a practicing of the presence of the divine as an intimate entity, an intimate friend, a life giver, something that is the way and the truth and the life, until we end in a culmination, a glorious culmination of true freedom. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.